When you're making a system, one thing you have to do is make games for it that don't suck and aren't cash-ins. With the Sega 32X, Sega messed up in many ways, but one of them was not giving the system many games. Sure, it had a few arcade ports, but other than that, it literally only had a handful of games, and only very few of them were actually good. One of the ones that wasn't good was Knuckles Chaotix. Sega decided to release a game with basically some gimmick for their new 32X system. They already had a prototype of it, so they decided to develop it into a full-fledged game. Sadly, this game wasn't that good, and in the end, just turns out to be another bad, forgettable Sonic spin-off, but at the same time also is an example of what not to do when you're making a system, and how to tarnish a brand as well. So how bad is this game? Let's start off. So basically, you start the game off with some cool, super scaled Sega logo trying to show off the power of a 32X. And then you see basically a screen summing up the plot. Some yellow dots are moving around some tower, and then all the yellow dots fall after Metal Sonic comes in, and then you see the logo. Well, actually, the plot is basically some theme park Eggman is doing something to, or I'm not even sure. But whatever. At least they don't show you forced cutscenes, so basically you get three options. Scenario Quest, Training, and an options menu. Scenario Quest is the main game. Now, basically, the game introduces one of the first commonly used Sonic mechanics. Two characters. Yes. Two characters. You know, the same mechanic used in Sonic Advance 3, Sonic Heroes, and of course, let's not forget Sonic 4 Episode 2. You remember that gimmick? Well, this was the game that started it all. You basically start as Knuckles in some random place, jumping around, and then Eggman comes up and he's like, "Fuck you all, bitches, I'm gonna fucking blow shit up." Because that's basically what the game is. And then you rescue SBO or something, and then you start off with the amazing two-character gimmick. What is this two-character gimmick? Basically, both you and Knuckles are attached by a rubber band. And you jump around, and that's all you really do. You just run through levels, run up through curve, run up through curve, run through curve, because that's the whole level design. That's all the game is. And there's literally not many enemies. So you get this forced tutorial, which luckily you can skip. It tells you how to play, but honestly, I think you'll want to skip this, because the next stuff is forced, and you can't skip it. If you do skip the other, you do get a forced tutorial though, which is basically, you have to run through this amazing level design, which is basically circles, circle, circle, run up through the curve over and over again. That's basically every single level. And then you just hold a button here and then hold a button there. And this game was pretty much designed to be played as a co-op game, and this game does offer co-op features, but it's not that fun either because of the stupid rubber band mechanic. And how bad is this rubber band mechanic? Well, you just run through the level, and you basically have to fiddle around with it a lot to get the character to do it. But even if you do, there's no enemies there, and so it requires no skill whatsoever, and it comes off as being way too easy and empty. Literally, the game feels super empty. Unlike the other Sonic games where you lose your reins a lot, you'll never lose your reins in this game as much as you will in the other Sonics. And basically, that's all the gameplay really is. Even if you get to the harder levels, it's still the same basic stuff. In the boss battle, I used a level select code. It's really easy. So it's not that good. And that's pretty much all the game is to it. There's literally not much to this game. And yet Sega decided to sell it as a full game. And let's just say it didn't sell that well, nor did it move 32Xs like mad. And now this game, on the used market, it will go for about a good price of them on $30 at minimum. Just look on Amazon. This game sells for $30 on Amazon, and then it just goes uphill from there. I mean, this game just wasn't that good. But now, about the graphics. The graphics are possibly the only good part about the game. The graphics sadly look better than Sonic 4 Episode 2. Because after all, there's a lot more animations. Like, you know how many Sonic games you just earn the rings? From the rings being in a higher color to, well, for when you smash a box, the animation of it breaking up, or from hitting an enemy to watching the ring fall and dissolve, the graphics look a lot more like an early PS1 Jaguar game, and less like a Genesis game, or Super Nintendo game. Because, well, there are Super Nintendo games that look kind of like this too, but they've got like enhancement chips everywhere. Like, look at that effect. As you can see, this game looks a lot better than the Sonic games ever did, which makes you wonder why they didn't just make a full Sonic game for the 32X instead of making this spin-off. It's pretty obvious Sega was just trying to cash in like the system was, just a cash in of the end of the Genesis's life. But anyways, the other good part is the music. And that's about it, because really, there's not much to this game. The music is just... the music's the only good part. I mean, it's pretty memorable, and there are a bunch of good tracks, but the problem is, well, the game also makes good use of the 32X's sound capabilities, using the 32X's sound along with the Genesis's FM sound to give you some pretty good arcade quality sound, but the problem is, there aren't that many songs in the game because, well, the game is pretty short. I mean, even though the game has a save system, you can beat the game in not very long. Sure, it's not like, at least there's an auto-save function like Sonic 3, but it's still relatively short. You can beat the game in just a couple hours if you're good, or even not that good, because, like I said, there's no real enemies. So basically, you can just dodge through all the enemies real quickly in the levels. I'm not kidding. That's all the game really is. It's just that easy. They made the game incredibly easy, or when they were making the beta, they didn't even try. And of course, the rubber band gimmick, it's like pointless. Utterly pointless. Why they put it in? I don't know. The special stages are pretty boring too. They're kind of like a mix between Sonic 2's and some hexagonal 3D polygon area. They're pretty annoying because of all the scaling involved, because they made it all scale to try to show off the amazing power of the Sega 32X. In reality, it's just not that fun because all you do is you run around trying to basically avoid hitting the spike balls. And that's about it, because it's pretty slow, and it goes until you lose all your rings, which you'll have like 4 million of, because the stages are so easy, so it won't really stop. I'm serious. This game is just... it's just like that. And did I mention the game also lets you pick from about 400 colors? Oh, look at that. Amazing collision detection. But yeah, the game lets you pick from about 400 recolors because basically, well, because this had a whole bunch of collectible characters, which had different abilities, but it's not that fun because one of them you actually play as and one of them you're dragging around the whole game. You've got SBO, who freaking walks up walls, Mighty, who's a Sonic recolor who can wall kick, and you've got Knuckles, who can stick to walls, and some 2 others, Vector and the other. But to select them, you can't just pick one. You can only pick your main one. The side one, you have to play some stupid combi catcher minigame, and you'll never ever get the one you want. And if you don't get the one you want, you'll have to reset the Genesis. So, it's just not fun. And by the way, you basically do the same stuff for the Chaos Emeralds. See, look, player select. You pick your character, and basically, you go in, and you go in and you suffer the easy controls. Because this game is just real freaking easy, but the controls are like so not that good. All in all, this game is basically one of the reasons why Sega bombed in the 90s. Because they couldn't support their big franchises like Sonic on their own systems. They trashed their systems too quickly. And of course, the games they had weren't that good on them anyway. For example, this, Chaotix. It's just not that good, and they were trying to sell systems with this. And of course, it doesn't help that they had about 400. They were trying to support several systems at once. The Master System, the Game Gear, the Genesis, and both its add-ons, and the Pico. When you're trying to support many, many systems at once, you fail. And that's basically what Sega did in the 90s. And of course, this game could have had potential, but then again, it didn't really, because all they really did was just make a video game that was incredibly easy and rush it out for an re-release, and then they based the whole game around a broken gimmick, which would actually become Sega's strategy later on, because they based their whole games around broken gimmicks. From the broken 3D of Sonic Adventure, to the Weird Hog from Sonic Unleashed, to Sonic 06, just flat out blowing in every single way possible. All in all, this game is just bad, and another reason why Sega got killed later on. Stuff like this. All in all, this game is just really easy, not that good. Only the graphics are good, and that's about it, because let's just face it, this game was a dud. I mean, don't buy this game even if you find it at your local flea market or game store for 20-30 bucks, because that's how much this game always goes for. It's a ripoff, and after playing about 20 minutes in an emulator, you probably won't want it anymore. And let's face it, Sega's not going to re-release this game. They haven't re-released this game ever, even though this game has a higher chance than Mother 3 of ever getting re-released. This game is just not going to get re-released ever. Sega's not going to put the effort into it. And of course, it's not a big name game like the Model 2 games were. So all in all, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more, and please, save your money and go buy better systems. Don't waste your money on a 32X. Go spend your money on like a Sega Saturn. That is so much better than this. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more. And that is all.